Have you ever seen an embroidery collection and thought, I know what to do with that, I'm going to put it on a tea towel. But then you go and stitch and your results are not so great. I'm Karie from OESD and I'm going to show you today how to get perfect results when embroidering on a tea towel, so let's get stitching. One of the most important things when embroidering on a tea towel is obviously the tea towel. It's really critical that you have a high quality tea towel because if it can't hold up to your stitching, you're going to have a little bit of a mess no matter how well you stabilize. OESD carries a fabulous brand of tea towel. They are ours. We've sourced them, done a ton of testing. These are our Start Here Embroidery Blanks tea towels, and it was really fun to find the very best tea towel out there. We washed and dried a whole bunch of them to make sure they weren't going to shrink and that they could hold up to your embroidery. So with our Start Here Embroidery Blank tea towels, you do not need to pre-wash and press. If your towel is really wrinkly, you might want to give it a nice press first, but no need to pre-wash because they're not going to shrink. At the end of this video, I'll show you a finished sample that I have washed and dried, and you'll see how perfect it still looks. The next thing that's really critical is your stabilizer. So a lot of people think with towels you need to use a cutaway stabilizer, and that is not the case. In fact, with many embroidery designs, you can get away with a tearaway stabilizer, which is perfect because then the back is going to look just as nice as the front. OESD carries two tearaway pressure sensitive or sticky stabilizers. Ultra Clean and Tear Plus, which is a hybrid wash away, tear away stabilizer. The fibers are going to break down with laundering, so it is perfect for something that isn't going to get washed a lot. We also carry Stable Stick, which is a crisp tearaway stabilizer. That's what I'm going to use today. It's great when you can get all of the stabilizer out from the pieces from your embroidery because it is a crisp tear and easy to get out. So I have a piece of Stable Stick hooped in my embroidery hoop, and I'm going to use our perfect scoring tool to score the paper backing on this. So all you do is you score lightly around the outside of your embroidery hoop, and I do 1x through the middle. You want to make sure that you don't score so hard that you go all the way through your stabilizer. I've been there, I've done that. You have to put a new piece in the hoop, so be careful when you're scoring. Then you can use the edge of your perfect scoring tool and kind of pick up the edge of your topper. And you're just going to tear away the paper backing, which exposes the sticky surface. And you're going to take your tea towel, fold it in half the long way, and just finger press a center line. So it is easy as that, and you can probably see there's just a nice line down the center. We have a great product called Stable Stick template sheets, which make placement really easy. So once you mark that center line, you're going to use a template sheet to put your design exactly where you want it to be. You can use any software, free software included, to print your design on a template sheet. So this is basically a giant to scale sticker of your embroidery design. So I've got my basil printed out right here, and I've trimmed it so I have the design by itself. And you can see there's a crosshair, so I will line up this top and bottom and place it exactly where I want it to be on my towel. That way you can visually see what it's going to look like when it's done embroidering. Now you don't stitch through this, and I'll show you, it's a very important step to make sure you take this off before you push go, but it does help with placing your embroidery design. So now that you have your Stable Stick hooped and that's sticky, and you have your template sheet on your towel, you can just place that in the hoop. The template helps you make sure that you are centered, and you're going to place this right on your machine. Then you're going to want to use some sort of a topper. Embroidery Topper is great to make sure that your embroidery looks perfect. It helps keep your stitching up above the weft and weave of your towel. Also great for when you're embroidering on terry cloth towels. It keeps the stitching up above the nap. We have two kinds of embroidery topper. We have a heat removable, which is heat to go, and we have a water soluble, which is Stitch 2O. In this case, I'm using Stitch 2O. You can remove the majority of it after embroidery just by tearing away, and the rest will dissolve with laundering. So you can see here, you just cut a piece that's just big enough to cover where your embroidery is going to go. You use tearaway tape to tape that in place. And then you will start stitching. Now that it's done stitching, you can see how beautifully this stitched out. So, like I said before, you can remove the majority of your topper just by tearing. And because this design is fairly dense and there's not a ton of small, tiny spaces, you should have no problem tearing away the majority of it. I like to tear it away before I remove it from the hoop. I find that it is a little bit easier, but that is certainly up to you. And then you can remove it from the hoop. So with a tearaway, you're going to want to tear away from your embroidery, not into it. So you don't want to pull up and just pull strongly towards yourself. You're going to want to start a tear and then pull gently away from the embroidery so that you don't distort it. So you don't need to worry about it being perfect on the back. You just want to tear away as much as you can. So now you have your beautifully embroidered tea towel. You might want to give that a good press face down in a perfect embroidery press cloth. It always looks better after a press. So once you've torn away your stabilizer, your back is going to look something like this. I don't think this looks particularly bad. Hopefully you agree. It's nice that you've used a tearaway because the back, you don't have a big shadow of a cutaway stabilizer when you're done. But let's say you want to cover that up. I've done it on the coriander towel, and if you can see, the back is covered up with a wonderful product from OESD called Gentle Touch. Gentle Touch looks like this. It's a really lightweight fusible product, and you will just cut a piece that's a little bit bigger than your embroidery, and you can just fuse it over the back. I round the corners before I fuse it. It helps the corners stay down through washing. This will stay in place permanently and makes the back of your embroidery look perfect. So it's really simple as that to make perfect embroidery on a tea towel. Use a proper stabilizer, use a high quality tea towel, and make sure you take your time and enjoy the process. Earlier I said that our Start Here Embroidery Blank tea towels don't need to be pre-washed. I know some of you out there probably don't believe me, but I wanted to show you the actual proof of that. One of these tea towels has been washed and dried after embroidery, and one of them is fresh out of the hoop, and I think it's pretty tough to tell which is which. But in fact, this guy has been washed after embroidery and this one hasn't, and they both look pretty beautiful. And both of these were embroidered with stable stick, and you can see there's no puckering, no shifting, and everything looks perfect and ready to adorn your kitchen. We hope you enjoyed spending this time with us, learning about how easy it is to get perfect results on a tea towel. Remember, starting with a quality tea towel and the right stabilizer is the key for your perfect results. So thanks for joining me. I'm Karie from OESD. Happy stitching.